Afternoon, John.
Hey, Marty.
Marty Keller here at Sacramento. John Donovan back in Oceanside. How was your return trip?
It went smoothly.
Good.
Yeah, went really well. So cool.
So we were blessed to have you with us for 5 or 6 days, and we even had the chance to have an outdoor gathering of the clan
Yeah,
at a meeting. Had essentially a promptu rusty nail digging in the dirt meeting.
mm-hmm.
And again, I'm grateful to you for all that you contributed to that, and
Thank you.
chance we had to hang out,
Mm-hmm.
talk. Something's come up actually in the last couple rusty nail meetings, the Monday night and the Thursday night meeting, which came from something people heard you say in the Saturday meeting, last Saturday morning. And since I wasn't there, I have no idea what you actually said, but so I thought I would share with you what I heard, they heard you say,
Okay.
and get your response. And as you'll hear, they both heard something different. And so not surprising. And so the issue was around the power of affirmations as empowered by getting in touch with the emotional truth.
Yes.
So one person heard, she actually used the term rocket fuel. I don't know if that was the term you used, but she said, my interpretation is when I speak my intention as I'm experiencing this energetic truth, then the intention takes on spiritual rocket fuel.
Yes.
And so that was what she heard. Then another gentleman basically heard whatever it was you said, and his conclusion was that setting intentions without the emotional connection is a waste of time. And all the intentions I've ever set, he said, don't count because most of them aren't done in that kind of environment.
Oh, that's interesting.
So given this is a topic that you and I discuss quite regularly on this podcast, which is the power of emotion, the power of the relationship of emotion and truth to the work of transformation, I thought I'd ask you if you'd be willing to comment on what you heard me say, people heard you say.
Okay. I'd be willing to do that.
Great. Thank you.
So the one person heard me, I don't say correctly, but using the term rocket fuel. It's like a booster. It's a desire booster to the manifestation process. I did not hear myself say that anything other than something with a feeling tone to it is non-effective. I want to offer ill-effective or not as much power if you're not in the feeling tone of either the trauma that triggered the truth statement in the accountability process. An example, I'm mean, or I'm mean to my children. There's in that truth, without blame or judgment, there's a frequency raise. I feel the truth of that, and the constellation of feeling awareness that goes along with that statement without blame or judgment. In that feeling tone, when I say it is my intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing father, it fuses, it connects with that frequency, which is non-judgmental, and then has the tag now, or the intent, loving, caring, nurturing, and that fuses with the trauma that motivated the mean, and then goes back down into my subconscious, reframed with the frequency marker of loving, caring, nurturing. Now, the frequency marker on that feeling emotion before I said that was the best way for me to keep people at bay is to be mean. That's safe for me, or for me to go away, or engage in a childhood behavior, yelling, screaming, stomping my feet, slamming doors. That behavior was attached to a feeling of fear, terror, and then the story, not good enough, wrong with me, that's the message. And my body wants to keep me safe. So whenever I feel something similar to what happened to me as a child, could be a raised eyebrow, that reaction response comes up and I want to get away. So if I own the truth, that's where I become sarcastic and caustic and demeaning and diminishing. I mean, I feel the initial marker, initial trauma, and then I say it is my intent to be kind, and it fuses with that frequency. And I don't know how to say this. I'm going to say it differently than I've ever said it. It changes the story around the frequency. When I am triggered, we use the term triggered in 12-step and recovery. When I'm triggered, the action response, the old action response wants to initiate, and I would say just initiates with either drug use or running away or attacking, which in my case was I would attack.
Is that the fight, flight, or freeze response?
Yes, that's that survival mechanism that's hooked into the old misinformation about how to relate to people and how to be in the world without tremendous amounts of fear motivating my life. So I'm gonna stop there, and if you can look for any clarification or.
My own experience with this work certainly parallels or coheres with what I heard you say, and so I wanted to introduce a potential nuance and get your thought. So I create the intention out of the recognition that let's use the one I've shared with on this podcast a lot. I found out one day that I really liked being in debt.
Yeah.
I liked being in debtor's prison. And so I created the intention to experience prosperity.
Yeah.
So the emotional resonance, that rocket fuel interchange occurred. And now I have this new, I like what you just said, I have this new version of the story percolating in my subconscious with this new information. And this information, I want to emphasize to the listener, is not necessarily intellectual information, but it's emotional information. Or it's better, it's a fusion of the two.
Yes.
Led by the emotional truth. So this emotional truth will now call upon this resonance of prosperity for me the next time I experience this, because I'm going to experience it again. Because I want to say, and you may disagree, but I want to say that when I had that experience and I was able to create a new intention, that did not necessarily heal the original trauma, but it did begin to change it, or to begin to change my relationship with it. So here's my nuance. So the next time I have that experience and I notice that I'm indulging in the addictive feeling that being in prison had created for myself for years and years and years, can I not restate that intention even though I may not be having that emotional resonance, and have that intention essentially have retroactive rocket fuel because it's already happened, and it's merely now a reconnection. Maybe I'm not feeling that because I may not be able to feel that breakthrough energy ever again, because the breakthrough happens once and then it's broken through. So I wonder if the capacity to restate the intention still has power as part of reinforcing this new internal story, reticular activating system, filter, whatever we want to say.
I would say, yeah, that is my experience. When I repeat, it is my intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing father, there is a substance to it that wasn't there before my ownership of being mean to my children. So it's like a reinforcement of the intent. I want to speak to, unless you got something else, what I want to go to now is the ineffective or it doesn't do me any good statement.
Okay, well, that may play upon what I might want to observe. So go ahead.
Okay, so the Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale, came out, I don't know, 1955, and it was think your way into prosperity or happiness or relationship joy, bliss. And if that were viable, that worked, everybody would be doing it, and we'd be in a completely different world. So what I've come to understand is, it's not that it's ineffective. It is a stimulus to refocus, to see where I'm at and compared to where I want to go. This process of accountability, saying the truth about where I find myself based on the trauma. It's an alignment of trauma and behavior. People in the ACA 12-step community know this. They have a list, and it's called the laundry list, of character defects that are in alignment with dysfunctional family of origin treatment, which is neglect or abuse or emotional unavailability. So they have that connection. And what I do is just simply go to the end result, or what accountability intentional living does, go to the end result and just say, that's where I find myself, without blame or judgment. The key part, the key component is being able to state the data. It's like, this is me to my children is in alignment with what happened to me as a child. It makes no sense. It's not rational. And I don't spend a lot of time trying to figure out the why, wherefore, how. I just own the behavior, and I find myself in a resonance field that is connecting me to that trauma, through the trauma into the original essence energy that I am, and then that can speak through me. My intent to be a loving, caring, nurturing father didn't dawn on me to even consider it until that moment. That moment gave me availability to things I wasn't available to before. So I can create, like before I did this, I said, well, I'm going to be a good dad. I intend to be a good dad. Well, that's actually part of the problem, because that's good as a judgment, and I'm still in judgment of I want to be a good dad. That means that I'm a no good person. So in this accountability process where I own mean, cruel, there's this alignment, resonance field, no blame, no judgment. And I believe that's the part, and I'm talking about the shadow, I'm mean, is what Norman Vincent Peale didn't have privy to. I guess I didn't really read his whole book, so I'm not sure that that's a true statement. I do know that the power of positive thinking has created a lot of frustration and poor results over the years. Otherwise, we'd be living in a different society. So the key here is non-judgment. Just say the truth, non-judgment. And then the recourse, or what I want, comes up out of that part of me that was never wounded, that spirit part of me, that light part of me that has always been speaking to me, and yet had to go through the piles and piles of trauma, and is now, when the trauma is validated, it's weird to say that, when the behavior is validated, when the behavior is spoken, it validates the trauma and creates an opening for this essence energy, this inspiration. Using my mind without attachment to my emotional and feeling body, at the best this can do is clever. When I drop into my emotional feeling body and just say what's there, acceptance, complete, utter acceptance, there's a resonance, and then the mind is fed through the heart, which is emotional feeling body, and that's inspiration. And that inspiration is what God, our connection to source energy, our true nature, which is benevolent, kind, and loving. If everything is light, God is light, and then that's our basic true nature. It's been turned around 180 degrees. It's just, when you say human being, well, I'm just a human being. We speak to the depravity of our condition. And I want to change that to I'm a human being, to speak to the magnificence of our nature. Yeah.
So I'd like to comment on what I heard you say based on my own experience, because again, as you know, I've been involved in the unity movement for a long time. I'm actually the principal speaker at my church, and I talk about these things every Sunday. And I had that experience that I heard you talk about. When I first got involved in unity was years before I met you. And so their teaching, and this is from the American New Thought movement, which started right after the Civil War. So this predates Norman Vincent Peale and Napoleon Hill and those guys. In fact, they probably learned it from this original source in this American Christian movement. And it was out of people's direct experience with healing, and they discovered that there was a connection between the body and the mind, such that how the mind conceives of the nature of one's physical health can actually impact that state of health.
Yes.
If I think I'm healthy, then my body responds to the healthy thoughts. If I think I'm sickly, then the body will respond with weakness and so forth. All this stuff is well documented. And my sense is, as I went through my unity experience initially, they taught me denials and affirmations. So we deny. The idea here is I deny that which does not work, does not serve me. The thought that says I'm weak says that's not true. And I then turn around and I affirm that which I do believe to be true, is I'm whole, complete, healthy, vital, prosperous, whatever it is that I'm working on manifesting. And I did that for a long time, and particularly go back to this prosperity issue that I shared a few minutes ago. And I kept affirming prosperity, and I kept finding myself in debt.
Yes.
And so I was at that place that you mentioned a few minutes ago, of frustration. And of course, it reinforced all of those so-called character defects that said, I'm not good, I'm defective, everybody else gets this, I don't, what's wrong with me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was only when I met you and I started to learn about the 9/10 of my consciousness that was below my active awareness, or my subconsciousness, that I recognized that what I was affirming with my conscious mind was in direct contradiction to what I was affirming in my subconscious mind, because my subconscious mind was organized around keeping me safe.
Yes.
And it does not, this is so important for us to get, it does not have a choice to not do everything it can to keep us safe. And so that affirmation, that subconscious affirmation of poverty and indebtedness was doing its job, and nothing in my consciousness that I could say could deflect this subconscious defense mechanism. Nothing. It's
Nothing.
not possible. It's not, it's survival's not an option for a 2-year-old.
Right.
So all of this, however it developed for me over the course of my life, that indebtedness was related to being safe. We don't need to go into that now. The truth is that was a manifestation of my safety mechanism.
Yes.
So once I had that experience that I described, that I was willing to own, in those days it was, I owned liking being in debt. That's the actual experience. I like this feeling. And as I've described on this podcast before, I could feel everything in my body shift and change. Tears sprang to my eyes. Relaxation occurred in my upper torso. My face relaxed, became soft. And because that alignment that you talk about was happening, there was no longer denial between here and here. The subconscious and the conscious came into full alignment. And in that alignment energy, the joy, I use that word, it's probably not fair to try to describe it. It's way beyond words that can be used to describe it. But we're human, we try anyway. In that experience of liberation, joy, ecstasy, whatever, I could now plant this affirmation that I'd been affirming for a long time with utter resistance, because there was no longer, at least in that moment, there was no resistance. There was only complete alignment. And so then I said, it's my intention to be prosperous. Now that work that you described of this information now being both conscious and in my subconscious now goes back into the subconscious and begins to do its work. And so that was for me the core distinction of all the work I've been doing in my New Thought Church, affirming away, denying the old, affirming that which I wanted. All of a sudden now it made sense. And that was the missing link, was the connection to the subconscious emotional truth that was keeping me safe.
And that emotional truth is hooked to a vibration, a frequency. And that frequency is what I'm talking about being the rocket fuel to the desire. Right. It's the rocket fuel that created the indebtedness, because it believed you would survive. You would survive indebtedness. You knew how to do that. If you got to prosper, you might die, or you had no idea. But it only knew indebtedness, you'll survive. So you go, well, I want to be wealthy. And this little guy in there is like flipping you off, going, okay, thank you for sharing. And it's my job for you to survive. And I'm going to do it in spite of you, in spite of what you think you need to be okay. And it's on that vibration of truth. Oh my God. It validates that mechanism, the survival mechanisms of hard work at keeping you in debt. And it goes, well, thank you for listening. I know it doesn't talk to me and it doesn't have that vernacular, but it goes, I feel is thank you for listening. I'm finally getting some kudos here. And in that lucid moment, it is my intent to be prosperous. It fuses, and this mechanism has a new directive, which it will carry out in spite of you.
Right.
Just like it did before.
Right.
It's amazing. Yeah.
So I just, go ahead.
I want to get back to intentions being not non-effective whatsoever. No. It's less effective, and based on results, it could be seen as ineffective. And at least in my experience, it led me to a place where I could shift, change. It opened me up to the possibility of going to a 12-step meeting 33 years ago. I mean, 34 years ago, I fought going to any kind of recovery because I wasn't sick, he's both right and wrong. It's ineffective. It doesn't have him doing, and and it does some good. So, yeah.
Well, I was thinking as you were describing it earlier, it's a distinction between a linear and a non-linear process.
Yes. Yeah.
So I can incrementally add to my affirmations, and certainly the inside, the subconscious is hearing it. It's not like there's no listening going on. It's just not going to penetrate. Over time, perhaps there's enough accumulated that maybe it can. But when we do it this way, we're now in a algorithmic shift change.
Right.
Um,
Parabola
yeah,
curve. Yeah.
exactly.
And it's also when like Norman's appeal power of thought, when I did it, it was what I thought I should do. It was what other people suggested for me to do. When I own cruel, mean to my children, what came out of me is me. What it's my choice to be loving, caring, nurturing. I had been admonished and chastised for being mean, and I say, well, I'm just doing my job as a parent. We need to do. It's a tough job, and I would justify the meanness instead of just feeling the truth of what the impact of meanness, and that I want loving, caring, nurturing. Nobody said, John, you need to be a loving, caring, nurturing father, pointing their finger at me, and I would have just said, well, thank you for sharing. You don't know shit, and I'm moving on. I'm gonna do what I know best. When it came out of me, it was like power. It was like, wow, rocket fuel.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So again, so thanks for taking some time to address this. It's really again, we've said this many times, the critical breakthrough of accountability practice is the commitment to opening to the hidden emotional truth of my belief about myself, my world, other people, unlocking that. And we unlock that by confronting it. Oftentimes we unlock it the way I did it was in this very counterintuitive way of you pointing out the possible projection.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That when I'm in a very, very uncomfortable, unhappy, angering, triggering experience, and I'm saying that other person did such and such, or that other person behaved so and so, chances are that's a projection about myself that I cannot see, and therefore I have to project it outward.
Yes.
And in our accountability practice meetings, we have the opportunity to work with a facilitator who's not got the same emotional hook, who can just simply ask that question. So it's like for you, it could have been, are you willing to consider the possibility that you're a mean dad?
Mm-hmm.
If you were being angry at some other guy you saw mistreating his children or whatever.
Yeah.
So so oftentimes the access to this emotional truth is counterintuitive, and my experience was also painful because you were asking me to own something about myself that I had already prejudged in seeing other people as being a terrible thing.
Right. Yes.
And what allowed me to do it was the commitment of accountability to no blame, no judgment.
Exactly.
And so that higher energy power that you talked about earlier, that source energy inside me said, you can do this without blame or judgment for at least 10 seconds. You can just say the words and commit to yourself that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you.
Right.
And so I did. And the more I do this practice, the easier it is to do that. I'm not saying it's 100% gone. There are still times when I look and say, oh gosh, I'm not sure I want to own that. In fact, I think I did some work with you here recently. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Because that
the
defense mechanism capacity to blame and judge and keep me safe is still powerful.
Yes. And the resistance to owning something speaks to the power behind the ownership. It's like there's days I didn't want to go to a meeting and I found myself at the meeting anyway, and it was a powerful meeting. So when you break through that resistance, there's a pot of gold waiting for you to pick up all the gold coins.
Right. And it's ironic. I don't know what your experience is, but my experience is up into that moment of being willing to non-blame, non-judge, own this truth, it feels almost impossible to ever get to that pot of gold.
Yes.
If you as a facilitator were sitting there and saying, come on, Marty, there's a pot of gold for you, I would basically turn around and do that as well. Because the resistance is like not, the resistance is not designed to be convinced.
Right. In fact, what is it? If you resist, whatever you resist persists. Whatever you fight against, you strengthen. The example I use is that I tell people, I said, if somebody tells you what to do, you probably won't do it, even if it's something you know would be healthy for you. But if somebody told you to do it, you not do it. The same thing's happening internal with me. If I'm saying to myself, I need to be better, that resistance, that reticular activating system, brainstem, midbrain, clamps down on the survival information and says, no way you're going to touch this. To put this in a counterintuitive context, when I feel the resistance to owning something, now to me is an indicator of, oh my God, something big about to happen. So I'm going to be blessed here. And I run to accountability. And it hurts. I'm not saying I don't have a feeling of trepidation or hurt or sadness or disappointment or even devastation. Those feelings are all there. And that's the frequency I've been looking for all my life anyway, is the feeling of being alive when I'm there. And at this moment, it's a realization of the impact I've had on my children, on the people around me, the hurt I've created through this denial or place I find myself in. And I wasn't able to stop hurting other people until I felt what hurt felt like. Once I felt this hurt, it wasn't in me to do that to somebody else because it hurt. It's painful. It's destructive. It's energetically frenetic, ripping. No. Yeah.
That's our humanity.
Yeah. That's our humanity. Exactly. Is this drive for connection and inclusion.
Well, it's also, but here's the thing that I've learned in the last couple of weeks as we've talked about this and we've shared it in groups, that commitment is utterly tied to a physical commitment to feeling alive.
Yes.
So that even the addictive energies, the fears, the compulsions are all elements of life making itself present in my body. It's my mind that says there's something wrong with that.
Correct.
And it's in my mind, in working with my emotional body, that I can shift the vibrational frequency to what it is what is the primary way I'm feeling alive today. Yeah. Am I feeling alive through fear? That's fine. I'm alive. I can feel it. Am I feeling alive through joy and peace? Those are all just vibrational frequencies in my body. Yes. But they're all, what makes them universal is that they're all expressions of being alive.
Right. And the one that comes to my mind is depressed. I'm depressed.
Yep.
Okay. Well, let's take a look at what's going on. You know, I just moved, changed jobs. My partner walks out on me. My kids think I'm a nerd. Okay. But that's depressing. That's being where I'm at when I'm there. And if I own it, accept it, there's options come open to me. If I go, well, I don't want to be depressed, I'm gonna take this pill, I'm gonna go do this, I'm gonna go golfing, or I'm gonna like distract myself, I lose the opportunity for choice. So
Yeah, again, as I hear you say that, my rational mind goes, boy, there's another counterintuitive one.
It is. It is absolutely. It's like Gabriel Mate says, we chastise addicts for moving to relief. It's like we make them evil and weak and um, destructive, and all actions move to life. All actions, not all actions find life. If I'm not lucid, I don't know the difference. I can't feel the difference. And in this feeling, hi, my name's John, I'm an alcoholic, there was an emotional, oh my God. And then at the same time, with the acceptance of this, what I thought was derogatory or a accusation or a label, the availability for other places for me to be, other choices came at the same moment. And my thought was, I'm coming back. I never had that thought before. I didn't even want to be there in the first place. Hi, my name's John. I'm an alcoholic. I'm coming back. No, not my wife is telling me I need to be there, or it would be the best thing for me if I took care of myself and, you know, got recovery. No, I'm coming back was the feeling, tone, thought, intent. And that was 33 years ago, and I haven't left. So, and it's given me everything I ever really wanted, which is connection and a place where I belong, a place where I fit, my place in the universe.
So one of the four constants of recovery in the accountability practices you've designed it is move toward your pain.
Yeah.
And again, another counterintuitive principle, but that's what I was hearing you say. I was thinking of when you were talking a few minutes ago about, and it hurts, and you're looking, and you have cultivated the awareness that whenever that's arising in you, that this is something to move toward.
Yes.
Because there's information within us that wants to make itself known. And if I'm willing to go there, you're willing to go there to suffer through whatever it might require to allow that information to arise into consciousness accurately, then that's what we do. Yeah. We start recognizing that there is gold, because we've already had the experience in discovering gold in previous experiences just like this, at least in terms of that emotional feeling of, oh my God, can I own this out loud in front of myself, God, and other people? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Universe's way of giving us access to, or to re-access ourselves.
I would say that when we, particularly when we have new people, but even people that have been around for a while, that move toward your pain one often gets a second look.
Yeah, it does. And when I offer that, and somebody asks me about that, I talk about the original pain, the original trauma, the pain I created avoiding the original trauma. It's not what I'm talking about looking at. I'm talking about that original pain. And when my body is validated that I was hurt, that I was neglected, that I was demeaned and diminished, that I was sexually abused, that really happened. And in that feeling of that hurts, it's unfair, how could they? It is my intent to live an authentic life. It is my intent to, well, what just came to me is be vibrant instead of surviving, is to thrive instead of survive. And it all builds on each other. And every time I make an intent now, my intent, I don't know, 30 years ago was live in peace. When I say it today, there's more substance to it. There's more of a foundation that it comes from and it's stronger, it's different, it's broader, it's wider, more encompassing, more inclusive. Same word.
But how do I move toward that original pain without moving toward the substitute pain? Because isn't the substitute pain the evidence that the original pain is there?
I want to just jump up right now and say I have no idea. When I say I'm mean, it validates the pain from my childhood that
Right.
created the meanness. When I say I'm mean and that validation comes, the feeling of sadness that I was afraid of, the pain that I was afraid of, and it wasn't even conscious.
No.
I didn't even know that my feeling of how much I impacted and devastated my children, because it is painful, the realization, oh my God, I demeaned, diminished, ridiculed, and stole their spirit in this process. That, okay, wow. It's, I don't want to say, I don't know how to say this. Pain, when I first think of pain, it's painful. When I experience pain, there's a joy connected to it. It's dynamic. It's not just flat, boom, I'm there, I'm gone. It's now, here, the thought that just came up to me is we may have it mixed up with physical pain. When I burn my fingertips, it hurts. That's painful, physical painful. Emotional pain of being dismissed hurts, but it's not the same as the physical, because like it's not masochistic here. We're not being masochistic, enjoy your pain. And it may be getting mixed up with physical pain or terror or complete devastation. I'm not sure. And it's more of, once somebody experiences it, there's more of an understanding of move towards your pain. A person who hasn't experienced their own pain at a conscious, lucid level, it's where the discordance or the, like, what are you talking about? I've experienced the utter sorrow at demeaning and diminishing my daughter. And at the same time, I experienced this utter joy that it was stopping. So how do you reconcile that? That was painful. And at the same moment, it was relieving. It was opening to a whole different world that I could live in now. So yeah, move toward your pain is a tough concept when you first hear it. It's like, no, I'm not crazy. I'm not going to hurt myself. Well, that's not what we mean. But and the conversation, the dialogue continues. And the more you and I talk about this, and the more I talk to other people about it, the broader the understanding of that term means. There's been books written about move towards your pain, and the pain is a healer, and the pain is an indicator. Pain is the beginning of a new journey. All this, I mean, a lot of books. And so now we're in the conversation. So I'm excited that we're in the conversation.
Well, isn't it even true that there are myths going back into the mythological era about the Fisher King and all of the myths about wounding becoming the key to healing?
Yes.
I mean, this is an ancient human knowing.
Yes.
The difference is, it's one thing for me to hear a story that's about somebody else, versus me becoming the character of the story and going through the same excruciating pain.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to read about your pain, John.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to hear you tell me about it. But when it's my turn on the hot seat, there's that, and it's part of the being alive thing. There's that resistance to feeling something that I've already felt in the past and have made a subconscious decision never to ever feel again. Never, no way, Jose.
Right.
Am I going to feel that again?
Right.
And I'm willing to generate a whole panoply of substitute pain rather than feel this other thing. And that's kind of the way the addiction behaves, is that it's all about it's about not even feeling those substitute pains anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But for me, that's why I asked the question about the, I totally get it's moved to the original pain, but I know that the substitute pain is the marker. It's the direction. You want to go to the original pain, start with the substitute pain, because
Yes.
that's where the cover up is.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm willing to do that, so the original pain of being in debt was covering up the fear of not belonging at all. And the fear of not belonging at all, again, work that you've helped me do is I'm unlovable, period. I have no possibility of connection. Therefore, I have no possibility of prosperity. I have no possibility of joy. I'm unlovable.
Yes.
And the original pain that I've gone back and experienced this through working with my childhood trauma healing therapist, as well as with you. I've actually re-experienced that pain, and I got why I would never want to feel that again.
Right.
I got why a 2-year-old would not ever want to feel that again.
Yes.
And I also got why I could create all these other substitutes for that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because there's no choice. We're not offered joy as a substitute when we're little kids.
No.
And particularly if I've already decided that they can have that, but over here on this side of the fence, I can't have that.
Right.
Then it just becomes the joy that I see out there just becomes a tease that reactivates my defense and feeling unlovable.
Yes. Children had no recourse. They had no recourse. And they're, as far as codependent beings, children are codependent beings in a stage of their life where they're developing. And then when we reach a certain age of reason, sentience, what I did was actually take on the role of my parents and internalized it and became self-critical. I had the same message, but it was coming from me. One of the, coming to a place where I was traumatized as a child, and then in my adult body, when I say I was abused emotionally and physically, and the end result of that was the meanness. So I owned I'm mean. I felt the pain of the abuse, and then the proactive. This is the key to today. I intend to now. The proaction that I can do as an adult is the healing or the recourse of the stuckness. I couldn't be proactive as a child. I tell this story where if I could have, and I was 2 years old, I'd have taken my diapered little ass into my parents' bedroom and told them to kiss my ass. I'm moving down the street with Joey, because his parents treat him like a human being. And if they get their shit together, give me a call and I may come back. Screw you, I'm out of here. I say, I didn't have that. I have that now as an adult. I can say, no, that was unfair. That was unjust. That was cruel. That was mean. And that proaction that I couldn't do then, I'm doing now, which is part of the healing process. It's like, and it's part of the life process. If I come up to a situation where I'm threatened, I have recourse now as an adult. If I come up to an action that was threatening as a child, I was dependent on their benevolence to get me through it, not anything else. Now I'm self-actualized. It's okay, if you say this to me, I have these options, which are about keeping me safe and still being inclusive, not no blame or judgment, just moving myself to safety. I don't have a good example of that right now, rather use it.
Yeah. I had something to say too, and it fled. Wow. How does that work?
Say that again.
I had something that I was going to use to illustrate what I was hearing you say, and it disappeared also.
Okay, yeah.
So we're having a mutual moment of blank.
Yeah, which is perfectly okay. Because we're
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, again, the thing as we move to wrap up here, I'd really like us to continue to develop our appreciation of the aliveness factor of all this work, to help me appreciate that all of these internal emotional states and dynamics are in service of feeling alive, and that I get a choice. It's like what you were saying about, the little 2-year-old be-diapered John not being able to go in and tell his parents what's what. Now
Yeah.
we can. So
Yeah.
now I have the choice that I couldn't have as a child, and I can work with my higher power through this emotion intention nexus that you've shared with us, to generate an aliveness that feels good or is fun and is not necessarily difficult.
Yes.
And difficulty will occur.
And difficulty will occur.
And pain will occur, and hurt will occur. But what I discover is, in the intention that I set for myself, I intend to create a world of joy, peace, freedom, and connection. What I discover is the hurt and pain, the shame that still arise do not have the same intensity, nor do they have the same duration that they did, nor do I recognize I'm just not hooked on it.
Right.
It's there. It's almost as if that's little Marty still trying to figure out if he can trust this shift, and I'm down with that.
Yeah.
Because that's him being alive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in a certain way a dance now that I'm doing with all this internal energy in connection with the higher power, who is, as you said at the top of the hour, is benevolently supporting all of it.
Yes.
So, because God just says, what do you want?
Yep.
And God doesn't say, well, here's what you should want.
Right.
The thought I had lost was, this is what reparenting is.
Yeah.
As they say in Adult Children of Alcoholics, I'm reparenting myself with permission, the permission I did not get. I'm reparenting myself with the validation that I did not get.
Right.
I'm reparenting myself with the love and approval that I did not get.
Right.
And slowly but surely, this inner resistance, like I said, it loses its intensity and duration. It's still there, and it may be there for the rest of my life, and I'm willing for that to be so.
Right.
Because it's a reminder for me how to be alive.
Yeah.
In this moment.
When I first started recovery, I thought I would figure out a way not to struggle, not to have problems. Well, actually, what I figured out is how to be well in the struggle.
Exactly.
Life is a struggle right now, as it appears now, as it happens in my perspective, and I struggle well. I do it with integrity, grace, and generosity.
Right. And slowly but surely, we awaken to the truth that we're all struggling in the same kind of way, that the human struggle is universal, and therefore we can create community in supporting each other in discovering better ways to be in the struggle.
Yes.
To find more conscious and intentional ways to be in the struggle.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean there's no struggle, like you said. It just means that, that's just one of the joys that I have in being in a relationship with you, for example, is the capacity to be in struggle with you.
Yes.
To, as you did when you came here, I had something to share with you that was painful and difficult for me to share, but I concluded that I wouldn't be in relationship if I didn't do it.
Correct.
And that's what I'm talking about. Is, well, we're just in this together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we'll support each other and listen to each other and
have fun with
each
other.
Yeah. Very good.
For those who might be checking this out for the first time or an early time, it may seem like there's a couple of wackos saying that this work is fun, but I'm here to tell you I'm having fun, and I certainly invite everybody that would like to learn about this to do this. At the end of the podcast, there's John's contact information as well as mine. If you'd like to attend any of the meetings that we facilitate. John facilitates on Saturday mornings at 8:30 Pacific time. And I facilitate Monday nights at 6:30, and our colleague Rodney facilitates on Thursday nights at 6:30. And our colleague Dan facilitates at 6 o'clock Tuesday nights for a men only meeting. Get in touch with me if you'd like the Zoom information to join the meeting, and we'd love to have you check it out. Find out what these crazy guys are talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks, Marty.
Thank you, John. Have a great weekend.
Okay, you too.